Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Into Deep podcast. I'm with none other than Mr. Nick Slater. Nick is an actor that I've been following on social media for literally years now, laughing out loud at his relationship skits, sharing them with friends, constantly saying, this is me, this is you, this is me, this is you. So it's quite surreal to have him on the couch today. I'm looking forward to delving a little bit deeper into his story, hearing a little bit more about relationships, and welcome to the show today, my friend.
Thank you very much, Geoff. It's a pleasure, mate. I had the opportunity to check out some episodes, love what you're doing, so very grateful and honoured to be here.
Amazing, my friend. Well, let's get straight into it, brother. We start with maybe one of the deepest questions first. So tell me, in your own words, who is Nick Slater?
Well, I thought I'd answer this quite literally and just provide some details because I guess all of those details form the puzzle pieces to put my story together. I grew up in Brisbane. I sort of lived 40 minutes outside of the city and had a loving family, 2 older brothers, younger sister. So being part of a big family, I guess we were naturally competing for attention with our parents and for validation, which might sort of signify why I went down the acting route. Came out of the blue, but parents separated when I was 13 and I didn't handle that very well. So it led to a bit of teenage angst and I developed a bit of avoidant attachment, and my way of dealing with that was sort of retreating to the bedroom, and that's where I kind of honed in on creative projects. So I started music, and I really wanted to become a record producer when I finished uni. So I went on to study that, and then I moved into radio, and I was working in radio for 6 years out of school, and I was making skits basically for Nova and later Triple M, which is a really fun job. But then randomly one Tuesday, I landed an audition on a US network TV show called Rain, which was shooting in Canada. So I got to quit my full-time job and move over to Canada and shoot that for 6 months. Did that and then moved to LA for a few months to, I guess, make it in Hollywood. Spoiler alert, I didn't. So
Here we are.
Came home, ran out of money and had to start again here. So when I started again in Sydney, I combined that radio and technical editing knowledge with my acting and got into social media. And it was really during COVID, when TikTok sort of started coming, and it was an opportunity to jump on and try new things because you didn't have to worry about your core audience. So a chance to be really creative and expressive. And I started skits, and thankfully the skits got a bit of traction. And then I basically just copied them on Instagram. And since then I've just really been able to grow the account and be full-time content creator while still acting on the side as a hobby and a passion since 2020. So that's kind of the broader thing, and I'm sure we can dive into some stories there.
Yeah, I love that, man. So how long were you acting for? You said from quite a young age?
I was doing TV commercials since I was maybe 13, 14, which I loved. I loved being on set. It was such a thrill because I think I'm naturally more of a shy person, which is so strange because of the career I've chosen to do. But I lean towards introversion more. Yeah. I like to make things on my own and then share them with the world. Yeah. But with acting, it was just one of those few moments in life where I loved being part of this huge set. I loved the pressure when they call action and you have to perform and live up to that pressure. So I did commercials until mid-20s where I started to lean into more scripted things because my manager at the time sort of believed in me and he said that, he could see me on Neighbours or something like that. So I auditioned with scripted projects for a few years before landing the Rain gig, which was kind of the first big acting gig I had. And I was incredibly green. So I just got dropped into this set amongst all of these wonderful actors and just had to work it out.
Yeah. So tell me, you said you had a crack at Hollywood, right? Like what percentage of actors actually make it in Hollywood, right? So was that... how did you feel when you didn't make it, basically? And what was the moment when you were like, "Hey, this isn't going to work"?
Yeah, I went over with a certain amount of money, as everyone did. For me, it was quite rushed. So I think if most actors, they would plan their attack on Hollywood with a bit more foresight and precision. But because mine was on the back of the show, it was really trying to consolidate momentum. I was like, okay, I've been on this network show now. now there's an opportunity to get over there and try and make the most of it. So it was quite rushed, and I didn't really have anything in place, like accommodation. Everything was on the go, which made it really stressful when I was there. So went over with a certain amount of money and just saw it declining each month. And the biggest challenge for me was getting a visa. So Trump had just gotten into presidency and he was clamping down on these artist visas.
Okay.
So I couldn't even get a cash job in the bar, and it was just it was a bit of a trial by fire thing, where I was like up against it. Glad I did it, because before then I hadn't lived overseas, and it was like becoming a man a lot, and I had to really fend for myself. It was also a tricky time in my life too, because during shooting in Canada, I broke up with my long-term girlfriend here. So I was navigating that while being completely alone on the other side of the world, running out of money. Yeah. So it really was all of these forces which putting a lot of pressure on me. I remember I was stressed out of my head looking back at photos of the time. I had this protruding vein in my head just because my blood pressure must have been so high. So I needed to come back to Australia and reset, and that's where I built my life up again, really.
Yeah. Maybe that's why you didn't get the acting gigs, mate. Is that big vein? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess they're not casting for someone who looks like they're about to have a heart attack.
Potentially. So tell me, what's your biggest lesson from your acting career that you can take to everyday life?
I think it's really to sustain yourself in that industry, you need to have a lot of belief and faith in yourself, because nothing's guaranteed. There's no jobs are guaranteed, and you even hear from actors who have been doing it forever, they're still waiting for that next job. There's that level of insecurity that just comes with the territory. So you need to have a certain level of belief in yourself, but also in the universe or whatever you believe in, that things are going to come your way. So it allowed me to build this really deep level of trust. And sometimes that goes. Sometimes I'll fall back into a scarcity mindset where I'm worried about the next paycheck, and it's tricky to do, but when you can lean into that abundance and that gratitude, you raise your frequency, and that's when things start to come to you. So that's been the biggest lesson for me, just to really get that self-belief in myself and also the universe.
Yeah. And like most people who aren't actors see acting as like, you're putting your neck out there, like, being vulnerable, super vulnerable. So
for sure. Yeah. I think for me, like I said, I was always a bit shy. So for acting, I like it because they give you the script. Okay. You're not being judged on what you say. You get to embody a character that's already been formed, and you can be vulnerable and have parts of yourself show up through that character. But I like the fact that I could be someone else or be this person with full permission. Yeah. And that's where the characters, the antagonists, are quite fun and enjoyable to play as well, because you can really lean into those nasty sides, and it's part of the gig, it's part of the character.
Yeah. My favorite character you play is just a woman with the towel on the head. You're very convincing.
Thank you. Well, yeah, that's I did one yesterday, and I was putting on makeup or something for this stupid skit, and it's terrifying doing it at home because Zoe will be in the far room, and I'm just so scared of her walking in mid-character. Well, I've got the tea towel on, and I think she might have a bit of there might be a bit of a scare if I do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Sometimes I look in the mirror when I'm doing that. I'm like, what am I doing?
That's hilarious. So tell me, so I first came about your page from the relationship skits. Was that what sort of got things going for you?
It was definitely skits. I started just doing random skits on anything and everything. And then I found out that people really resonated with the relationship skits. And I love talking about it. I think I've always enjoyed talking about relationships, probably since my relationship fell over when I was 28. Yeah. So I really leaned into learning about how to avoid that again. So combining those two things of acting and the skits, I felt like I found a bit of a sweet spot, something that I enjoyed talking about, but that people resonated with as well. Yeah,
so you were sort of learning and sharing your lessons in a sort of infotainment is what they call it these days.
For sure.
Right?
But also learning things myself. Yeah. So I think that's the best way to learn is by researching attachment styles, working out why you do things you do, and then to be able to teach it, it sort of reinforces those lessons to yourself.
Yeah. So attachment styles, like they're becoming much more mainstream, which is very interesting. And you mentioned you have or used to have an avoidant attachment style. How did you, because now you're in what seems to be a happy relationship, you got engaged last March, congratulations. Shout out to you, Mrs. Zoe, I believe you said her name was.
Zoe, thank you.
How did you heal this avoidant attachment style of yours?
Well, I like to say that no one's really fully healed with their attachment style. It's just an ongoing practice to recognize those triggers and then self-soothe or self-regulate. For me, the biggest thing is just learning. It's almost like an aha moment when you reflect on the way you've been triggered in relationships and how you react, and then learn about attachment styles and realize that, oh yeah, that's because that's how I was conditioned to as a kid. That's how I learned to cope with whatever love I was getting from my parents. So yeah, I definitely lean towards the avoidance style of things, and there's still moments where we'll be having a fight, and not a fight, we don't really fight, but having an argument, and I'll just want to leave the room and slam the door, go back to my room like a child and deal with it on my own. So it's just about awareness. It's about realizing that that is the conditioned response, and it's about creating a gap between that stimulus and choosing a different outcome. So for me, it's realizing that I want to go to the room and slam the door, but creating a beat and going, okay, no, that's okay. You're safe. You're not going to, you're not in danger here. Have a breath, regulate, and then just open up to Zoe or whoever it is and encourage dialogue instead of the conditioned response.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just, creating that gap between the stimulus and your reaction.
Yeah. So I guess step one is awareness, right? Being aware that you have this tendency, right, to, either self-sabotage or, like you said, slamming doors. If you could give people one piece of relationship advice that's not awareness, what would that be?
Another question I was reflecting on was, what's the best piece of advice I've received? And I think this would answer that question as well. For me, it's the idea that love is a choice. So I think we see movies as kids and we just think that Hollywood spark, that honeymoon period is just going to last forever. And that once you find your soulmate, your person, it's going to be easy. You're always going to be attracted to each other. You're always going to be harmonious. But what I've realized is that love really is a choice, because every time that I've felt resentment with a partner, or every time that I've been frustrated about something, 9 times out of 10, it's because I'm projecting my inner world onto them. So when I've realized that and said, look, what do I need to do to feel better about myself? And usually it's just getting my habits back on track, or bringing gratitude to myself, or when my self-esteem is higher, naturally I'm happier in the relationship. So with that, love is a choice. So you can't expect things to just be automatic and rosy all the time. I think it's about constantly choosing that person and constantly choosing to put the work in and constantly choosing to make sure that you're operating from a place of high self-esteem as well.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I think Tony Robbins said the most important thing you can do in a relationship is to work on yourself. That sounds like you're sort of echoing that exact same thing.
Yeah, I think that's the most selfless thing you can do.
Yeah.
And I can't speak to having a family yet, but I imagine it's similar, that working on yourself first will allow you to show up to your family the best way you can.
Yeah. Okay. I do love that, my friend. And so tell me, were you dating long before you met Zoe?
Was I dating anyone?
No, were you dating for long? Like I wanted to what did you find the single world in this sort of new modern digital era of like dating apps and that sort of stuff? I wanted to know what you found that like personally, if you spent a bit of time doing that.
Yeah, there was probably 4 or 5 years where I was dating, and maybe I had 3 things at that time, where it might last for a year or something even more brief. So yeah, I was dating in that time and had a few relationships out of that. But before I met Zoe, I was on the apps for maybe between 6 months or a year, I think, and I was feeling pretty despondent. I was ready to give up.
Yeah.
Like it just wasn't matching with anyone, and there were so many games being played, nothing really eventuated. Everyone's trying to protect themselves and not put their cards on the table or trying to have too many options open at once. So yeah, I was about ready to give up, and then luckily found Zoe. We met on a date. Well, I saw her on a dating app. She didn't like me back, so I did the creepy thing and followed her to Instagram.
Well, if she's putting it out there, mate, that's what she was looking for. So
I hope so. I hope so.
Well, look, you're engaged now, so
it all worked out for the best. Yeah. So once I followed her there, she sent me a message saying, "Sorry, do I know you?" And it was just a perfect way to put me put me on the front foot.
Okay, love that, man. So if you could give your take on modern dating, because I've been single. This is probably the longest I've been single since I was like 14, like maybe a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. And I just feel like it's so different to when you're a kid and there's no like, you're in your early 20s or whatever, and there were no apps back then. You know, I just feel like things are so different. I don't know anyone who's happy on the apps, basically.
Really?
Well, everyone's like complaining, oh, fucking the apps, how shit are the apps, blah, blah. I don't think anyone enjoys being on there. So what's your take on modern dating and where it's at?
On the apps, I think the apps can be are a wonderful resource if you use them well. I try not to give up hope too quickly. And I think they're kind of necessary these days, obviously depending on where you live. But the reality is most people are on the apps these days.
Yeah.
I think to make sure that you're having a good experience on there, it comes back to what we were saying before. It's about making sure that you're in a good place and really prioritizing yourself, creating a full and happy life on your own so that you naturally have that energy where you're just looking for someone to complement your life instead of complete it. So I would say, I'm not sure where you're at, but if you've come out of a relationship and you're single and you're thinking about getting back on the apps, I would say just work on yourself, maybe have a presence on there, but make yourself your priority and build your self-worth up to a certain level where you attract people on that new wavelength as well.
Yeah.
Because being single is actually a really good time to do those upgrades. Naturally, we attract people in our same frequency, and being single is the best time to make those personal upgrades so then you can elevate and attract someone else who's on the high frequency as well.
Yeah, totally agree. Like the amount of time I have now is like, I was in a 10-year relationship, so I have so much more time to delve into my own hobbies and explore things that I'm more passionate about, if that makes sense.
Yeah, okay, right. And how do you find the people on the apps? How are you finding the girls, or are they pretty respondent, or
I found
not so much?
like I haven't been on any like crazy people. I was like, oh, what's your worst dating experience? Like all of my dates have been like pretty great. Like people seem like nice enough, but like again, like I don't think a lot of people don't seem like they're ready for a relationship. They might say they do. I've been in situations where I felt like it was heading towards a relationship and then it just like fizzles out, or I get ghosted or whatever. Not necessarily ghosted, but like they'll pull back. So it's sort of like this, I don't know, it sort of like seems like a game of cat and mouse sometimes. Like when you think things are going well, it's done. When you think things are going shit, they're like, it's just like it's a bit of a mess, to be honest.
It is, yeah. The games was a massive one that I experienced as well. I think going back to your question, being open and honest is a good one. And in the way the game's being played, that might push some people away because they prefer the mystery and that won't attract them. But what worked for Zoe and I was just being open and honest from the get-go.
Yeah, well, you got to be upfront about your needs and not be scared to chase people away.
Yeah.
Because the right person will stay, whereas you're going to scare off the wrong people. But people, I guess, too scared to speak about how they feel.
If you're going to scare people off, they most likely will have some kind of attachment issue themselves.
Yeah, correct.
So being open and honest is the best way to approach it, for sure.
100%. So what would you say people struggle with the most in relationships?
I think probably men I can speak from experience, staying open during conflict. I think that's the most challenging thing.
Yeah, even myself, like I'm divorced now 2 years, was in a 10-year relationship. And we saw a therapist and she described men as like the tortoise and the women as like the hailstorm, I think. Men go in their shell and the woman's like, let's talk, let's do it. And you're just like, I would just, like you, I'd want to go into a room, close the door, go totally like stonewall and just like, I didn't want to talk about anything.
Interesting. Yeah. I guess another one might be men trying to fix things all the time. We're the fixers.
Yep, totally.
Whereas a lot of the time women just need to be heard and understood.
Well, that's the classic relationship book, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Like it's that exact concept of guys want to give advice and girls just want to sort of just listen.
Yeah, that's been a massive one for me for sure. Yeah, because naturally we want to solve the problem, but a lot of the time all they need is for you to listen and to feel heard and offer our support where we can.
Yeah, I've gotten better at that. I'll actually ask him, like, do you want advice or just want me to listen? So literally just asking can be a game changer as well.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's sometimes where I feel like that as well. So I'll say to Zoe, I'll whinge about something and she'll say, well, do this, do that. I go, oh no, I just need to be heard in that situation. Sometimes we just need to feel seen by our partner.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, we're going to take a little bit of a beeline and hear a little bit more about your life and your story. Okay. I want you to tell me, what's the hardest thing you've ever been through?
During that period where I came back from the States and I had to start again in Sydney, there was about a year where I was getting things back on track. And then out of the blue, my brother called me at nighttime. And it was a bit late. It was a bit unusual. And he said that Dad had had a stroke. So Dad was living in Brisbane at the time and had been rushed to hospital. So we all kind of freaked out and flew up to Brisbane, and Dad came out of the emergency, and they told us that he had a tumour on his brain, sort of the size of a golf ball. And they showed us the scans, and it was like this burning red, fucking vicious looking thing. And he was kind of almost comatose, like he was very sort of semi-conscious. And my sister was living in Seattle at the time. So I remember holding the phone up to Dad while Lily was about to jump on a plane, and Dad couldn't speak, so he sort of lost the ability to talk. And Lily was saying, you know, Dad, I'll be there soon, like, hold on. And Dad couldn't, like, he wasn't sure what was going to happen in that situation, couldn't talk, wasn't sure if this was going to be the last time that he was going to talk to my sister. And just to see the fear in his eyes and the frustration of being able to tell her if that was indeed going to be the last time. Anyway, so we realized he had a brain tumor, and the doctors gave him something like 6 weeks to live. So all the kids were there. We went into the nurse's office. She showed us the scans and gave him a pretty limited prognosis. Luckily, we were able to get more time with Dad. So they tried an experimental drug with him, which was expensive, but it bought us time. So we had another 18 months with Dad, and through that time had some really lovely memories. We took him on holiday to North Stradbroke Island, where we kind of spent a lot of time as kids. And it wasn't easy, but just very grateful that we had that time with Dad to say proper goodbyes and things. It was a really difficult time for us kids because my parents were broken up and I lived in Sydney. Dad didn't really have anyone to look after him, so we would have to spend time flying up to look after Dad. Thankfully, my sister, she sort of relocated back to Australia, so she was amazing and did a lot of the legwork with that. But because I didn't have the salary, I didn't have a full-time job, I couldn't take annual leave and go to be with him. So I was in a really stressful situation where I was trying to cover rent in Sydney, but still be with my dad while he was dying. That period was fucking pretty hectic. The other thing was because the tumor, as it sort of grows in the brain, it starts affecting different parts of the body. So he might wake up one morning and lose his speech or his vision, or he had this thing where he would just confuse words, which was kind of funny sometimes. Like he would say, oh, there's a cat when it's a dog. And I remember having to go to a speech pathologist with Dad, and it's just, it sucks to see like your proud, super intelligent dad having to talk to a speech pathologist like he's a 5-year-old. So moments like that were incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
I'd say that's the hardest thing I've been through. But through that whole process, just grateful that I can't imagine losing a parent suddenly without any warning. I'm just grateful that we had the time to spend with him and grieve that, so that when it happened, we had already done a lot of healing.
I'm sorry to hear that, man. That sounds really, really challenging. But like you said, you got an extra 18 months. So how does that change the time spent with someone? Because it's funny because I had 2 guests ago. I had a girl on who lost her dad, then her sister, then her mother, all 3 years in a row. And, you know, she's so present and sort of, it's really changed. It shaped her in a way to sort of live life to the fullest, if that makes sense. So how did that sort of change, I guess, your mindset towards life, that experience of like being told that your dad only had a certain amount of months to live?
Definitely changed my approach to health and longevity, because it's the first time in life where I was able to see time so literally, I guess is the word. But, before that, I guess seeing mortality, realizing there's an endpoint to all of this. And before that, time was quite abstract. But to see Dad, who was 62, I think, which was quite young. I remember that sort of hit home when I was going through family albums maybe a year later, and seeing Dad with us kids, how happy he was, and then only 20 years later dying. And I just realized it would have been longer than that. But yeah, just seeing the timeline like that was quite confronting and really sad. But yeah, it really lit a fire in my ass to make the most of it, because it shows you just how finite things are. And also Dad, he's part of that older generation where they didn't put as much time into health and fitness. They just didn't have the awareness and the education like we do. So he spent a lot of his working life just sitting at a desk in a chair, not doing much exercise. And I just want to make sure that's not me. So I've spent a lot of my time now going to saunas and working out and exercising and walking, just because I've seen where that road leads, and I definitely don't want that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's completely changed my outlook on health.
Yeah. So tell me how else you sort of mentioned sauna. What other stuff do you do personally for your own mental and physical health?
Sauna's a big one. So I do that maybe 2 or 3 times a week. And
the ice bath combo or just sauna?
Yeah, the ice bath combo. It's a really good outlet for me. I feel it's great for men specifically with dealing with anger. I don't know if you do this, but when I'm in that sauna, when it starts to get insufferable, I imagine that there's pain or anger leaving my body. So anything that's been keeping me up at night, or any sort of unmet anger, I'll bring it up in my body and just imagine that I'm breathing it out.
Releasing it, yeah.
Yeah. And then jump in the ice bath and do the same thing. Maybe for 5 breaths, just breathe out that anger, like a dragon breathing out fire, and then change that to gratitude. So once I feel like that negative or so-called negative anger is out of the body, I will switch it to gratitude and imagine there's this sort of green ball of gratitude flowing through my body. So that's why I love the sauna ice bath combo. It's a really good opportunity for that. Besides that, I will go to the gym maybe 3 times a week, do a bit of surfing and golf. And in terms of mindset, I meditate. So meditation's a big one for me. And I think that helped me get through Dad's death a lot easier, because before he died, I was meditating on it, just sort of, I don't know, imagining him and allowing that pain to come up.
Yeah.
So that allowed me to tap into that. I remember I had a song that I would play which allowed me to grieve. It was Blood by the Middle East, which is a beautiful song where he's talking about his grandma dying from leukemia. And there's a line in the song where he says the cancer spread to her body and her blood, and there's nothing they could do about it now. And every time I play that song, it just got me. Like I just started crying and bawling, and it's my way of dealing with the grief. And it's crazy. I've told this to a few people, but when Dad was dying, we were sort of taking turns to be with him in the final days. And I was just sitting there in a room with him, and his breathing was really shallow, and it just felt like it was coming soon. Like obviously he was unconscious, and I played the song. I just had a feeling to play the song. And when that line came on the song, the cancer spread to her body and her blood, there's nothing they could do about it now, he took his last breath. So it was at the exact point where I had been processing and crying for the last year.
Yeah.
So in that moment, I just felt like there was something else, something special had happened, and I was as shocked as I was almost grateful, and it was a really beautiful moment.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to go, my friend. And so that sounds almost like a spiritual moment. So can you tell me what does spirituality mean to you?
For me, I believe in a higher power. For me, I call it the universe or God. I was raised a Christian, but I'm not a practicing Christian. I like to think that there's, somewhere we go when we die, and I like to feel like Dad's still here with us, so that way I'm quite spiritual. I think I lean spiritual without it being sort of I guess, through meditation and manifesting, that's sort of the core of my spirituality. And it's not too formal.
Yeah.
I guess is what
and
I'm
just
trying to
having
say.
moments like you said with your dad and that song, like I'm very similar to you. I believe in high power. I believe in the universe. I believe I've had too many spooky, crazy things happen to me to believe that there's not some sort of greater power guiding us.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah, that moment was, it felt like there was something going on,
Yeah.
It was really special.
Yeah. Beautiful and such a tough time as well. Okay, Nick, tell me, what is your definition of success?
It changes as you get older, right? So in my 20s, success would have been about having a profile, having status, maybe getting on a TV show or being in a movie. But it's funny, I went up to Brisbane over the holidays and spent some time with my mate who has two beautiful boys, two beautiful kids. And I saw him get up in the morning and the kids run into his bedroom. And now I truly believe that's success. Having a family, having kids. It's like just creating this little gang of yours that you can have an impact on their lives and have special time like that. It's less of an outward projection, but more of a purpose-filled family, which I really see as being success now.
I love that, man. And I think about this all the time about what's the most important thing that's been given me in my life. And it's honestly, I think it's probably my mother's love. I'm getting a little emotional right now, but just to have that love. She's made me who I am today. And without that, I don't know where I would be. So
Beautiful. Yeah. It comes back to family, doesn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Totally, man. And just, it doesn't necessarily have to be like blood family. It just, giving yourself to others, I think is huge in that response, in that regards. Now, Nick, tell me, what inspires you in life? Well, you sort of just mentioned, you saw your friends, family, but it could be having a future family. But is there anything that gives you inspiration and that motivates you to sort of push forward?
For me, the biggest inspiration for working would be creating freedom of time. So what's really driven me to do this career, which is a little bit different, it's a little bit scary, but the main driver for that is so that when I can eventually have a family, I can be there with the kids. So having that freedom of time has always been appealing to me. I remember my dad said his advice was always to try and avoid having a boss so that you can work for yourself.
Yeah.
And I've always made that a priority. I love the idea of being a stay-at-home dad, I guess, where I can be with my kids during those most special years.
Yeah, I love that. And so when you mentioned working, we laughed about this off camera when I was like trying to research you a little bit more, and there wasn't really a Nick Slater landing page, so to speak. So what does work look like to you at the moment?
Yeah,
I'm
lucky
sure it's very fluid and it changes a lot, but yeah.
It is. I guess it's in the creative industries. So I do voiceover work as well as acting, and lucky enough to have this social media gig as well. The social media one, it's a very interesting, weird job that I guess is so new. You really are the master of your own destiny there, which can be a bit stressful because it's really up to you how much time and effort in. There's no one giving you a job list that morning of what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And as you know, with the podcast, there's just an endless list of things to do. So that can be a little bit stressful sometimes. Acting is what gives me the most fulfillment when I'm on set. It's because you're part of a huge collaboration. There's so many people on set and you're part of something bigger. So you don't really get that on social media, even though I love doing acting on there. There's nothing like being on set and being in a role and also creating something that will stand the test of time, hopefully, and be something that people look on, view for years. So that's my goal for this year, to get in a movie or get on a TV show while doing social media as a hobby that I can also monetize as well. So
yeah, I love that, man. Living the dream. And so tell me, this social media practice, is it just like, do you have a certain day where you're like, I'm going to sit down and, you know, pump out some skits, or does it just come to you and you're like, I'm going to put a fucking towel on my head and put some makeup on and hope my missus doesn't walk in and just get to work? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I to and fro between having a structured routine and having a more creative thing. It is tricky with creative stuff because you can't always sit down and think of something funny or worthwhile, but structure definitely does help. I'm always trying to crack the code of what works best. But for me, the thing that I consistently coming back to is nurturing your energy first. And I think this goes for any job. If you can just make sure that your energy is high every day and you're in a good mood, you're naturally going to be more creative. So there are certainly times where I wake up and maybe I'm worried about money or worried about job or whatever, and my instinct is to go straight to the cafe, load up on caffeine and try and hustle my way through it. But it's actually quite counterproductive. Yeah. I found the best thing to do in that is just to surrender.
Slow down a bit.
Slow down, go to the gym, go for a swim, and really just work on getting yourself to a good place and in a good mood, because that's when the ideas start to flow.
Yeah.
So and creative writing, especially if it's, you know, comedy, you need to be happy and like jovial. So I had as I was telling you before, I had a big Chrissy New Year's break where there was a bit of drinking, and I hated that because I loved it at the time, but it took me like a week to recover.
Yeah.
And during that week, I was so grumpy that no ideas were coming, and I really felt like I self-sabotaged.
Yeah.
So that's it's a good lesson to prioritize energy, because then the creative juices will flow.
Yeah, of course. But also, like we talked, it's good to take the foot off the gas every now and then, enjoy yourself, and then get back into it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's almost like sometimes you need a big enough hit out to have that proper reset, and then you can really set the good habits and maybe work your way towards another hit out in 6 months or something.
6 to 12. So let's talk more about the social media growth. Was it like sort of an overnight success? You put up a few skits and they went gangbusters, or was it like a consistent slog for you to just like throw shit at the wall and see what stuck? Like, how did that work for you?
Well, I was lucky enough to get a decent audience from that show I was on. So I think I got about 40,000 followers from that.
Oh, nice.
So I always loved taking photos. I always loved social media. It just has evolved over time. Remember back in the day, it was photos. So all you had to do was put up a good photo to get.
Yeah, it was like singular photos, and it's like the people are dumping and the reels. So like, it's always evolving.
Which is wild, yeah. And then during COVID, we started the TikTok and was just really stupid. To be honest, the skits kind of did well immediately on TikTok, which I was really surprised by. And it was probably just because I was being stupid. I was just being a complete idiot. And was scared to put them on Instagram initially, but eventually put them on Instagram, and it grew that as well. So I was lucky that the engagement was pretty immediate with the skits and the reels and the video content. And from there kind of worked out what was working, what I enjoyed doing, and was able to narrow my focus and build it from there.
Yeah, okay, nice. And what's your most viral post? Do you have one that comes to mind when you think of like?
Definitely the attachment style videos. Yeah. So the skits where I play a character with the tea towel, and she's the female, and then the guy, and they're on a date, and they're kind of demonstrating some of the complications with attachment and dating in a skit. They definitely get received the best. Yeah. So once I've sort of figured out that, I leaned into that, and that's kind of I guess one of the risks of social media or Instagram. Sometimes you can get funneled down a niche. Luckily, I enjoyed that, so it was okay. But I think it's important to also do what's enjoyable for you.
Mm. Okay. And were there any setbacks to sort of going this? Like, I want to know more about, you know, how do you deal with setbacks when they arrive in your life?
I like to think I'm pretty positive with setbacks. I've had a few recently. The last couple of years with social media, I have been a little bit tricky because I went to a new manager maybe 2 years ago, and that didn't quite work out just because of it. They were quite new and it just wasn't the best alignment. So that's a bit scary when that happens because your income is in jeopardy. I just try to lean into positivity in those things and not get too negative on it. And it goes back to having complete faith and trust in the universe that you're always going to be led towards the highest good.
You see it as a redirection as opposed.
Yeah, and just try and take lessons out of it.
Yeah.
Not get caught up in that negativity, and goes back to, you know, attracting what we are and being as positive as possible.
Yeah. Okay. Love a positive mindset. Tell me, when's the last time you surprised yourself?
Oh, this was a good one. I think for me, I've this might be surprising, but I haven't always had the highest level of self-esteem or self-belief. And I think it comes back to my family dynamic when I was growing up, competing for attention between 4 siblings. And
Where did you sit in the hierarchy?
I was the youngest boy, and then I had a younger sister.
Okay.
And they're brilliant. They've gone on to do really cool jobs. And I have a very loving mother, love her to bits, but she was never one who sort of gave me unconditional support in everything and doesn't really understand social media, for example. And I think that's given me a lot of drive to really try and prove myself in the world. But yeah, it's probably something that I've had to work on, is that self-belief. So that, going back to the question of what surprises me, when I do try something new and I write a skit or write a piece of content that is a little bit different, and I do some acting in that, the way that gets engaged is a really nice surprise. Like, for example, you said that you watched some of the content, and that's really nice to hear, because a lot of the time it's so abstract. You know, you see who's seen it as just a number on the screen. You don't always realize that there's people behind those numbers. So to meet people in person who have resonated is the best surprise ever.
Yeah. And do you get that a little bit? Obviously, like Bondi Local, pretty big on social media. Do people stop you and go, Nick, like I see you? It's like, do you get that a little bit?
Occasionally, yeah. It's the best thing ever.
Yeah.
It's really, really sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
kind of like a chef slaving away at the back of a restaurant, cooking this beautiful food, doesn't really get to see the end of it. Like, a lot of the time they're just back there slaving away, right? So it's nice for someone to pat them on the back and be like, hey man, that was a great meal.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, because you make these things in the comfort of your home by yourself. So it's nice to see that it's actually affecting people.
Yeah, and having a positive
real
impact.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Nick, we got a little bit of a quirky one now. So I want you to tell me, if you could have a drink with anyone, dead or alive, who would that be? And I want to know what you're drinking.
I like it. This one stumped me because I've thought about this. I'm not someone who has that person in my head that I'd love to have a drink with. But when I really thought about this, I arrived at Steve Irwin.
Ah, that's a good one.
Just because he's someone he just looked like the biggest legend you would ever meet, radiated positivity, but also his message. I think that would be the most enjoyable conversation you could have.
Yeah, that's actually such a good one. His personality is so infectious, and his zest and love for life was just like unmatched. Like that guy loved what he was doing more than anyone I know who's doing anything. Any professional athlete I've seen, like he was just like everything to do with it.
Yeah, and for him to traverse, like to be so popular in the States as well, it's just like anyone who has seen any videos of him is like, yep, that is so magnetic.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've got the next best thing through his son, Robert.
Oh, yeah.
Seems like a duplicate.
He's an up and comer, hey? Like, yeah, literally like just reincarnated.
Yeah.
Like completely.
Which is, it's mental, just watching videos of Robert. I think that's probably the same thing about Steve, just that they're so genuine and authentic. I think there's something so special about that, which makes them instantly likable all over the world.
It must be crazy for people close to them to see Robert, because like he's just the same exact person.
Yeah, imagine his mum.
I saw someone's biggest prediction for this year was that he would become like a famous actor.
Really?
Like that. Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me, what about fictional character? Oh, so what would you be drinking with Stevie?
It'd have to be a beer off tap.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe he's up there in Queensland, so maybe a 4X.
Yeah, maybe a 4E with Steve. Okay. Okay, cool, Nick. Now tell me, what's something that you couldn't live without?
I'm going to say my fiancée, Zoe.
In case she's listening.
Just to clear the bases in case she's watching this.
Yeah, of course.
But besides that, I would say movement. I think without movement throughout the day, I quickly become very grumpy. Movement for me is the first thing I do in the morning. I try and, walk every day or run, whatever it may be. Really is an essential part of my self-esteem.
Yeah.
Allowing myself to deal with stress, negativity. it also inspires me.
Yeah.
So for me, could not live without movement.
Okay. And so you mentioned movement. And so do you have any other rituals as like an actor, content creator? Is there anything you do to sort of get into the, mindset of stepping up on stage and playing another character?
I'm big on visualization for everything.
When you were telling me this sort of sauna story about the green ball and stuff, I was like, yeah,
big time.
Yeah,
for sure. Because the world of auditioning is so strange as well. I remember, this is actually how I got into meditation originally. There's a wonderful lady called Emily Fletcher who teaches meditation through a performative sort of viewpoint, where it's all about dealing with stress and how you can show up and work as the best version of yourself. And I guess it goes against the traditional thing of meditation being like you're sitting on a mountain being a Buddhist monk.
Yeah.
Hers is like, how can you use meditation to be really effective at work, specifically performing? And it's big in visualization. So her thing was go into an audition room and you visualize the whole experience, visualize you doing the best job, and visualize you leaving that audition room having booked the job in just the best mood ever. So yeah, that really stuck with me, and now I do that for everything. Even if I'm going to an event where I feel a little bit uncomfortable or nervous about, I will mentally rehearse it before, just to imagine me in that room, being as social as possible, talking to everybody, doing what I need to do, and almost living it before it happens.
Yeah.
And every time I do that, it's just so much easier on the night.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And I don't know if you've heard about the studies of they get like two groups of people to shoot free throws. And I think they've done it with piano as well. They get them to shoot free throws, and then the other people just go to imagine that they're shooting free throws, and they both improve like by the same amounts. And I think they've replicated this with like people playing piano as well.
Wild. Yeah. So it goes to show you can start forming neural pathways or rerouting neural pathways in your brain just by visualizing.
Yeah. What's the name of that woman again? I'm going to write that down.
Emily Fletcher.
Emily Fletcher.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's called Ziva. Ziva.
Z-I-V-A. Okay, that sounds like something I'm definitely interested in checking out.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Okay, tell me, what's your best purchase under $100?
I'm a massive Amazon fan.
How crazy is Amazon?
Yeah.
So I've got family in America. I was actually born in the US, moved here when I was 10, but like they had obviously Amazon Prime, and my cousin was like, I remember him calling me being like, dude, he's like, I can order something and get it that night. He's like, what the fuck is going on?
Game changer.
Yeah, completely crazy. Hey?
And it's so good for those sub $100 purchases.
Yeah.
Just little bits and pieces for the house.
Yeah.
Recently got one for avocado. So avocado is great, but if only you're having half, put it in the fridge and it goes off really quickly.
Yeah.
But this one's like a spaceship that you put the avocado in, close it up. It's like a Tupperware design.
I'm writing this one down as well. That's I need that in my life. I'm a big guacamole. We're a big guacamole family.
You need this thing. I don't know what it's probably called, an avocado
Spaceship. Okay.
Look, everyone needs one of these.
Yeah, I've got some Amazon stuff coming today. My daughters always lose my TV remotes. I need to get like a beeper on them or something. But like, I've got a couple of spare Samsung ones.
Is she just taking them to bed or something?
I don't know where they go. I don't find them, so I don't even know where they go. I'm sure they're like under some weird like part of the house or something like that. So
is there a chance she's selling them at school?
I'd be very proud of her if she was. I don't think she's at that level. It's kindergarten level, but you never know, mate. She could be a little entrepreneur. Tell me, is there anything you're watching, reading, listening to right now for your own personal development?
Always on the podcast for personal development.
Yeah.
If I've got a spare time or if I'm at the gym, that's what I'll tune into. The biggest person I keep coming back to is Tim Ferriss.
Man, it's funny you say that. He's like probably the original guy who got me into podcasts, I think.
Yeah.
Someone told me that I look like Tim Ferriss.
Yep, I'm getting Tim Ferriss vibes.
Someone said that on this show as well. But yeah, he's amazing. He had this one recently where I think it's called Know Thyself as a podcast, and they actually interviewed him. I'll actually send it to you because if you like Tim Ferriss, you'll love his sort of takes on life. And he was, I thought he was incredible to listen to.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
It just stuns me how articulate he is. He's clearly so clever. But beyond that, just the life he's created for himself, I find really inspiring.
Yeah.
It's completely against the mold, but he's always pushing himself to learn new things, do new trips.
Yeah.
It's something I'd love to do as well. And I know that he's very intentional about organising trips with friends to Japan or wherever it may be across the world.
It's funny you say, and it's funny we had that conversation about like, you going to the Ashes and having a few too many drinks with their friends. And he talks about that in this podcast. He spent a lot of last year planning a week-long trip to the Day of the Dead Festival in Mexico. And he was just talking about how important it was to go. And he's like, of course I'm going to go there and drink too much mezcal and like get drunk. He's like the benefits of the social aspect and the friendship far outweighs the hangover,
Right.
the temporary hangover.
That's such a good way to look at it. Like if you're going to do it, at least see the benefits of it and celebrate that, just to remove any shame or guilt.
And he's obviously at a stage now where he can sort of do these projects and it's not going to affect him financially, but he was talking about how, there's no such thing as a failure. So he'll set a project and he really tries to, learn as much as he can and build new relationships, and whether the project succeeds or fails, doesn't matter. Doesn't make a difference.
Okay.
I thought that was really enlightening as well.
So learning and building.
Yeah, I think it was learn as much as possible about whatever he's delving into, and then building relationships with new, interesting people while he's on that journey. If it fails or succeeds, that's great.
That's really
And
cool.
obviously we live in Sydney, right? Not everyone can just quit their job and work on projects. Like people have to go and make money. But I just thought that was a really interesting one for him.
Making those the goals.
Yeah, 100%. So what other podcasts? So you mentioned you go back to Tim Ferriss. Anything else? Any other guys or girls you like to listen to, tune into?
Rich Roll is another one.
Yeah, I've been getting into him a lot more recently than I ever have before. But yeah, he's good. He's great.
Yeah, I'm just again impressed by how articulate he is. I think maybe for me, because I really wanted to improve in those areas, when I heard people like Tim and Rich be able to explain their thoughts so coherently in such a beautiful way, that was really appealing to me. But also, again, he's someone who champions health and wellness and mindfulness. He's been through his own struggles, and it's always so authentic to hear someone who's gone through addiction in his case, and to hear how he's come out of that. I think that's such a beautiful thing to listen to, and makes people really magnetic. So I feel like Tim and Rich are fairly similar in ways, and I'm definitely drawn to them.
Well, I feel like people who have been through really tough times become the best healers. Tim's had the health issue. What's it called? His health issue? Is it lupus or something?
Yeah.
He's got something like that, which I think it's extreme fatigue and a lot of stuff like that. And Rich obviously struggled with alcoholism, that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah, which is surprising, right? Tim, I think he suffers from insomnia as well.
Yeah.
Which, I can kind of imagine, because...
Well, he says he's a very OCD like personality type, which you can totally tell. Like
that
the way
adds up.
How he's like, his knowledge and how articulate he is just phenomenal. Yeah.
Someone who keeps notes in books. I think always talks about reading fiction books, and he'll keep notes, which is just mind-blowing to me, because if I'm reading a fiction, I'll get caught up in the story and I'll allow myself to relax and let go. But Tim is actively taking notes.
I'd love to just open some of his books and have a look and see what he's got in there.
Insight into his brain.
Yeah. Okay. And so any books, if you could name, the most impactful book on your life, what do you think that would be? Power
of Now is what I always come back to. So I'm reading it again at the moment. And it's just one of those books where every page is an kind of moment. And it's beautiful to read before bed, because it's so much about surrender, and talks a lot about emotion regulation and all of these things that are so nice to get reminders on.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's about presence and being in the power of now, and it's something that we all need to keep coming back to in this world where we're constantly pulled by so many competing distractions. That's a huge one.
Yeah, it's really funny you say that. That's literally my number one book also. And I made a joke on my last podcast that Eckhart Tolle has to start paying me royalties because I talk about the power of now so often. And that was my first introduction to mindfulness, right? Like when he talks about sitting and looking at the trees and looking at the leaves on the tree, and even when he talks about brushing your teeth, I'd never thought about that before. And it really changed my life. And when I open that book, I've got so many highlighted, different color highlighters from different times in my life, and it sits on my bedside. And instead of reading before bed, I like to read it a little bit in the morning, just a few lines that I've highlighted, just kind of keeps me present for the day.
Amazing. But, have you found that revisiting at different times of your life?
Totally.
Different parts.
It's funny. I always end up back there when I'm struggling. A lot of the time, I'll just pick it up when I'm going through a tough time. Like when I was going through my divorce, it was an amazing thing to go back to. But yeah, you're right. You pick up new things and you see new things impact you in certain ways. But that's my most reread book, 100%.
Yeah, brilliant. I think that the most powerful lesson for me from that book is when he talks about he was broke or homeless and he was sitting on a park bench, I think, and he realized in that moment that despite not having an ideal situation, he was still okay. He was still safe. And that's something I've really hung on to, so that whenever I'm facing setbacks or struggle, I can go inside and connect with that part of me that is, there's still love there, is still safe, and whatever's happening on the outside, we're still going to be okay.
Yeah.
And tapping into that security is beautiful.
Yeah, it's very similar to Man's Search for Meaning. I'm sure you might have heard of that one as well.
I've heard, I haven't read
It's
that.
about, I forget his name now, but he's a psychologist and he's in a concentration camp. And his whole thing is like, all this stuff can be happening externally, but you have control over what's going on in your internal. It's very powerful and probably easier said than done if someone's in a concentration camp, but it just puts things in perspective when we're having a shit day or someone cuts you off in traffic. You're like, fuck, like this guy was in a concentration camp, thinking positively and thinking about all the things he was grateful for and that sort of stuff as well.
For sure. Yeah. And so many of our problems are what's happened in the past or what's going to happen in the future or what may happen in the future. If you can go inside, connect to that power of now, realize that you're okay.
Yeah.
Nothing's harming you.
Yeah.
You're going to be fine.
And the last woman I had on interview on the podcast, she recommended his other book, A New Earth, I think it's called. Have you read that one?
No.
I just started reading. It's actually pretty good.
Cool.
Started off a little slow, but I'm getting, it's becoming a little bit more like power now. So I'll let you know when I'm finished with that one.
Yeah.
All right, Nick, tell me, if you could give advice to your younger self, I want to know what version of yourself would you give that advice to and what would it be?
I think it would be that boy who's just left school. He's got his career ahead of him. He's trying to work out what to do with his life. And when I look back on my career, I think I suffered, not sure I love that word, but maybe it was a detriment that I tried to be the jack of all trades and tried to spread, I think it went back to a bit of a scarcity thing. So even when I was acting on that show, I hedged my bets and I still had a business that I was working on just in case that didn't work out. Or even, last year I was trying to do too many things at once. And I think my career has suffered because I've tried to do too many things. And I think it's so important to put all your eggs in one basket and just go after it. Because when you do that, you tell the universe what you want and that'll get reflected back to you. Yeah. It probably also comes back to a self-belief thing. Maybe I didn't believe that I could succeed. So I would say I'd go back to that young boy and I'd say, look, whatever you want to do, you can do that. Just commit your time, your energy and go all in because now's the best time to do that. And I truly believe that if you commit to something and you put all of your energy into it, it's almost inevitable that you're going to succeed.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally have fallen into the trap of the jack of all trades stuff, like trying to run multiple businesses really poorly, as opposed to running one just really well. But like cutting things down definitely helps. I had another conversation with a client literally this morning. He owns multiple cafes and he's kind of working on this side hustle. And I asked him how it was going. He was like, "Man, like I just got to focus on the cafes."
Interesting.
You know what I
I
mean? So
think society tells us that we constantly need to be growing and doing all these things.
Yeah.
Being on social media, you're told that you need to launch a product, you need to create passive income. But when I've done that, sure, those things go okay, but I truly think that you're just spreading out the energy.
We only have limited energy, finite. It's a finite resource, right? So
yep.
Yeah.
So don't grow, but I would say master one thing first and then work it out.
Yeah.
And also I'd say just back yourself. You can't wait for people to believe in you.
Yeah.
I think I maybe relied a little bit too much on external validation. I'd say give yourself the validation that you're looking for others and just go after it in a rational way almost.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I love that, my friend. And tell me, what's the best piece of advice you think you've ever been given and who would that be from?
It would be that love is a choice. So yeah, I touched on it earlier, but in relationships, it's about being intentional and the energy and the love that you put into the relationship, that's what you're going to get back. So you can't just float through the relationship expecting it to work. You're both going to be growing at different rates. And the best advice I had was that you need to make love a choice so that every day you show up with commitment, with effort, with intention, because ultimately that's going to be reflected back to you.
Yeah. That's a great one, man. I laugh with my friends all the time. Like one of my friends have successful businesses and like, they have meetings with managers and this and that, but like they don't ever sit down with their partner to be like, hey, how are things going? Like, how can I do better? How can we make the relationship better? People are more willing to put in work for, these people who, you might spend a 38-hour work week with, but someone who you're supposed to spend the rest of your life with, it's silly to kind of sit down and have a talk about this stuff and how things are going. So
it's just easy to float along.
Yeah.
Weeks go by and you haven't actually checked in with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a massive one.
So do you guys have any formal, I guess, relationship check and stuff that you guys do?
We're pretty good. I mean, it's rare that we'd go a fortnight without having a serious talk about that.
Yeah.
We're trying to implement some money chats just so that because we're saving up for a wedding and we need to get a bit better with that. So we're going to introduce like a fortnightly money catch up.
Yeah.
But in terms of how the relationship's going, communication's always been pretty good for us where if there's a resentment or a grievance, we can voice that. And if we don't voice it, usually the other person will say, what's going on? Like, go on, tell me what's up.
Yeah.
It's always really good like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll try and bottle things up and she'll squeeze it out of me.
That's good.
So yeah, communications is okay.
Yeah, and
for
you're
us.
on the same page. Money, like I've got to say, one of the reasons why my marriage didn't work, I think we were on really different pages when it came to like how we wanted to parent our kids. We never had a conversation. Be like, cool, like what does it look like? How do you want to be seen as a parent? What sort of values we have? We never really had that. And when it kind of came, we were like, oh, like just totally different values and styles, I guess, if that makes sense.
That must be so common. Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine too many people sit down to have those chats.
Yeah.
Did you find that it was aligned with how you both lived life? Were there any hints in like how you approach day to day?
Yeah, definitely. Like there were definitely like red flags, like I would say, probably from both ends, like that we weren't compatible.
Yeah,
Early on, but like I don't know, I felt a lot of pressure, societal pressure. No one was putting any pressure on me, but I kind of felt like, oh, this is what you do. You're just with someone for this amount of time, then you get married, then you have kids, and like there were a lot of problems. And kids don't solve problems. To be honest, they make things a lot worse.
Do they?
Well, obviously they're amazing to have in your life, but like puts extra strain on a relationship, especially when it doesn't have a solid foundation.
I can imagine.
So,
Yeah. Because I look at friends who've had kids and during those, I don't know, maybe the first couple of years when they were born, it's almost like you are just co-functioning, like dealing with no sleep. It seems like if your foundation isn't solid, I can see it just falling apart.
It's such a tough time. And then you forget, like, because you forget why you were together, because like you've got these little beings that you're caring for, and there's no time for each other anymore. So you're just like, you can really fall apart then.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's tricky, mate. Well, I'm sure it'll be better for the girls, just instead of them having parents who aren't getting along, for them to have harmony outside of that.
Totally, man. Totally. All right, my friend. So if people want to see more of this amazing content of you with a towel on your head.
That's generous, but thank you. It's just nick.slater on Instagram and Nick Slater on TikTok.
Yeah. Okay, awesome, guys. And I've got so much out of a conversation today. It's like I said, it was surreal to have you sitting here because like I've been sharing your skits for like years now. So
well, you're the person.
Yeah, this is me. A lot taller in person, this guy as well. I thought he looked kind of tiny on social media, but he's a big dude. So I was quite impressed.
Well, it sounds like I might need to get into the gym and work on the guns or something.
Let's do it, man. Maybe can you get like a new lens or something like that? Like a
wide angle.
Yeah, wide. We'll go wide.
Chuck a wide angle.
Okay. And if you could leave the people with one more message on the way out, what would it be? Oh,
I just had a deep one. That's probably going to continue this thing.
We'll cut it out if it's too weird. But
okay, so while I'm on social media and I love it, I think it's so important to be intentional about how you're using social media. The reason I say that is because we're in a tricky time politically, and after the Bondi shootings, I put up a few things and just got drawn into the dark side of Instagram, and you really have to be so conscious of the content you're watching and you're being fed by the algorithm, because it can be so detrimental for your mental health. I think you just be intentional about what you want to see on there. Don't spend too much time on Instagram, because I think that's probably the greatest risk to our society at the moment. People going down these rabbit holes and having a really distorted view of the world based on what they're seeing. Yeah. It's not that bad outside. Just go outside, talk to strangers and have fun.
Yeah. It's so funny you say that. One of my big New Year's resolutions is to, like, I spend a lot of time wasted on social media. Like I want to be more present with my friends, my family, my daughters. So cutting back on social media. And it's funny you mentioned the Bondi shooting. Like I've got a number of friends who deleted Instagram like weeks after, because they were just like, I've just got to get out of here.
It's too much. Yeah.
So, and I've heard a lot of people saying like, this is the year where people are just like done with social media and they're going back to sort of just living in real life again, because we spend so much time. And like you said, it's a great tool, but it can be a terrible weapon against, living a life that you want to live.
It falls on the corporations, the social media, the companies, because you can view something and it holds your attention for a second longer, and suddenly you're just being bombarded with political stuff from all over the world, and it's way too stressful. You realize that there's people out there with opposite opinions that seem so irrational to you, and that gets you triggered.
Yeah.
So the best way is just to tune out.
Yeah, well, I've heard theories, people saying that, you know, the social media company is going to be treated like the cigarette companies used to be. Like everyone thought it was okay. And then there was just enough data to be like, this is actually like ruining the younger generation and older generation. So like, I'm quite looking forward to that day.
That would be
honest with you.
Yeah,
to be forced off it.
For sure. If you can be really intentional with your algorithm and be super selective about receiving only content that's going to improve your day, it's good, but it's just too easy at the moment to be forced down rabbit holes.
Yeah. Crazy, crazy times, my friend. Well, thank you so much. And thank you guys for listening this far. If you got anything out of the show, share it with a friend, rate us on Spotify. Helps us get great guests like this man. And I look forward to seeing you guys all next time. Thank you so much for coming on. Enlightening conversation with you, Nick. And I'll see you next time, my friend.
Thanks for having me,
Peace
Geoff.
out.
Appreciate it, man.